Welcome to the Best of the Monty Show 2023, presented by our friends at SoundSleepMedical.com. Before we get into it, I want to remind you, there's a big difference between snoring and sleep apnea. Every night in this country, people go to bed with sleep apnea and they never wake up because it stops you from breathing. You know, if you have sleep apnea and you wake up and you're, or your spouse wakes you up because you're snoring loudly and gasping for air, you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to be embarrassed anymore. You don't have to sleep away from your wife or your husband. All you have to do is get to soundsleepmedical.com/Monty and sign up for their free sleep evaluation. No embarrassment. It's completely discreet. What they're going to do is tell you, hey, are you just somebody who snores or do you have sleep apnea? In any case, they're going to fit you for a custom mouthpiece that's going to move your lower jaw forward, clearing your airway so you can get that sleep you need. I'm begging you, do it right now, don't delay. Sleep apnea kills Americans every single night. Don't be the next one. Get to soundsleepmedical.com.
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code MONTY, M-O-N-T-Y, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
The Monty Show.
Jim Harbaugh is in trouble with the NCAA again. And is this trouble? So many people on Twitter today were trying to tell me I'm making far too much out of sign stealing in college football. Here's the issue. Jim Harbaugh is being investigated by the NCAA along with Michigan football. And the allegations are that Jim Harbaugh sent advanced scouts, essentially personnel from Michigan, went to opponents' games and took part in activities to steal their signs from the sideline to the players. And if you did not know this, advanced scouting has been illegal in college football since 1994. And at first it was a cost-cutting measure. The schools didn't want to pay to send people on the road to scout their opponents. But now a lot of it is centered around the fact that people believe sign stealing is prolific in college sports. But here's the problem. Sign stealing is not illegal by the letter of the law. Sending somebody ahead to scout your team and steal their scouts or steal their signs, highly illegal. Jake, is this a big deal or much ado about nothing?
Well, I think that track record comes into play here, and I think that's why it's a big deal. I think that, yeah, this is clearly not like the end of the world violation, you know, in NCAA land, but I think that it just kind of speaks to the type of head coach that Jim Harbaugh is. It speaks to the kind of program that you want to run, which is one that's not, you know, up to snuff. It's not run clean. It's not run the right way. And before a Michigan fan wants to take out all their, you know, swords and die on the hill of Jim Harbaugh, I don't care if everyone else is doing it. Not everybody else is getting caught. And that's the difference. It always seems like Jim Harbaugh is right in the middle of this thing. And before we say, oh, well, who cares? Who cares? They just hate Jim Harbaugh. Well, then if they hate Jim Harbaugh, then what else are you going to say about all the other violations? Did they hate Kirby with all the super speeder tickets? Was it personal then? Because I don't think it's personal now. I think this has to do with the guy in Jim Harbaugh who regularly finds himself in the middle of NCAA violations. And even the most committed, the most loyal Michigan fan can't deny the fact that he's constantly being investigated. So I know that Michigan fans going to show up today and say, oh man, this is not much to do about nothing. And they're just coming after him and everyone hates Michigan or us. Cause I know you're on the team too. Like I at some point we have to come to the middle and say that, hey, you got caught again, right? You were recruiting in the COVID dark window. Can't do that. You got caught. Nobody else. But it's not
even that Jim Harbaugh was recruiting in the COVID dark period. He was recruiting in person. Remember that the allegations include Jim Harbaugh scouting players over Zoom calls. It just blatant disregard, allegedly, for the rules in the NCAA. And that, if true, is exactly what he's accused of with this sign stealing thing. And I think when you look at the letter of the law, I think it is pretty remarkable that you're looking at a situation where Jim Harbaugh, if you believe the NCAA, just said, screw it, we're gonna send people ahead and we're gonna steal their signs. And the funny thing is that you have coaches who have been hinting at this. We now know Greg Schiano at Rutgers, one of them, where we know that people have believed Michigan was doing this. And here's the thing that Michigan fan can't get away from. You have a guy in Jim Harbaugh who could not win a big game, who really wasn't doing much and was on his way out of Ann Arbor. And then all of a sudden something changed. And now you've beaten Ohio State twice in a row, including at the Shoe. Now all of a sudden you're winning big games where you couldn't even sniff a big game victory. And you were going to get fired. And all of a sudden now you're just winning everything. And what do we have? Recruiting violations, alleged recruiting violations, alleged, scouting and sign stealing, illegalities. These are not coincidental.
Yeah.
And if you have watched this show for any amount of time, you know that I am not a Jim Harbaugh fan. I covered Jim at Stanford and then at the San Francisco 49ers. He does, in my opinion, not treat people well. In my experience, his players don't like him. He has a very short window in time where he captures a player's imagination and gets them to run through brick walls for him. And then there is almost an immediate burnout factor. We've seen that now. And he went through that exact same thing at Michigan. But instead of picking up and running to a new job, he may have allegedly started recruiting violations, taking part in recruiting violations. And now we see that the NCAA is investigating him for illegalities around sign stealing and advanced scouting.
Yeah, and I just don't know why we want to die on the hill for this guy. I mean, it's not like, I could totally understand it. Like if you were in Georgia's position, totally get it. Hey, we've won back-to-back national championships. We're rolling. We're the guy in college football right now. Like Jim's doing everything Jim can do. Okay, at that point, then I would be like, yeah, like, hey, die on the hill for this guy. Who cares about the violations? Until they come down on him, it doesn't really matter, right? But the problem is the winning's not there. Just because you beat Ohio State a couple times doesn't mean you've gotten over the hump in terms of your program.
Getting blown out in the college football playoff last year.
Right?
And you look at, I think there's some very damning details in this statement from the Big Ten. Late Wednesday afternoon, the Big Ten Conference in Michigan were notified by the NCAA that the NCAA was investigating allegations of sign stealing by the University of Michigan football program. The Big Ten Conference has notified Michigan State and future opponents. The Big Ten Conference considers the integrity of competition to be of the utmost of importance and will continue to monitor the investigation. The conference will have no further comment on this. So you go from that to the athletic director at Michigan, Ward Manuel, who said, I want to personally assure you that the University of Michigan Athletics will offer its complete cooperation to the NCAA. Michigan, all of us are committed to the highest standards of ethics and integrity. There's those words again from all members of the community. This is the same expectation I have for coaches, staff, student athletes. Given the ongoing investigation, I'll have no further comment at this time. And you just start to realize that we're not talking about like some small thing. We're talking about the ethics and integrity. They are accusing Jim Harbaugh of stealing signs, which led to victories.
Right.
That's what those statements are saying. And I think here we are again with Michigan, a proud institution that, let's be brutally honest about it. I can tell you firsthand as a Notre Dame fan, Michigan doesn't win big games. Michigan, Lloyd Carr splitting a national championship wasn't good enough. He got run out, right? I mean, and you can go back through the history of time, whether it's Bo Schembechler or Rich Rod or whoever you want to point to, it just was never good enough. And all of a sudden you start winning at a higher level, and arguably Jim Harbaugh is winning at the highest level in the modern era of Michigan football by beating Ohio State 2 years in a row and going to the college football playoff. And all of a sudden, what do you have? Recruiting violations, and now you're cheating by advanced scouting and sign stealing.
Yeah, it's just not a good look. And I think that, we haven't really heard about a lot of this stuff in college football. I can't tell you the last time I heard about some sign stealing scandal. I mean, really, honestly, in football, the last time we heard about it was with the Patriots. I mean, we all remember that. And I think that,
but you also have to remember, sign stealing is not illegal in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in where you get in trouble, it is this exact scenario. And one of the things that blows my mind is, as I described to you what Jim Harbaugh on Michigan football is accused of doing, ask yourself, well, how did they get caught, man? Because this is really hard to get caught. You can, on a game day in your stadium or wherever you're playing, if you can steal your opponent's signs, that's not illegal. If you can watch them signal plays back and forth, steal the signs, not illegal. But what's illegal is sending your buddy Fred ahead, somebody, because it's probably not a Michigan staffer, I wouldn't think. Send them to a stadium where, let's say, Ohio State's playing. Send them to the Shoe or send them to a road game and have them monitor the Ohio State sideline and either record on video or on paper what their signs are. Well, they showed a banana and a zebra and the state of Texas. And then they ran a reverse toss sweep throwback to the quarterback. That's illegal.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. But here's my question. How did you get caught, dude? How did you get caught? So you can't tell me that Jim Harbaugh is an unintelligent person. Trust me when I say he is not. He is maniacally intelligent. You can't tell me that he sent somebody let's send Fred, the analytics guy, send him in a Michigan jumpsuit with a telephoto lens and, have him sit 55 rows up at the 50-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think they didn't do that? If you believe some of the allegations floating around, they allegedly sent somebody to a game. I'm going to guess they sent Jimmy, the truck driver, or the garbage man,
right,
to see, let's say, Michigan State, because that's who people are mentioning. They sent them to East Lansing, probably dressed in Michigan State garb and holding a pair of binoculars. But somehow you got caught. Do you know how rando it has to be for you to get caught? Please tell me. Please, Jimmy, tell me you did not send somebody in khakis, a Michigan polo shirt, wearing glasses with a telephoto lens.
Please.
Singularly alone, sitting in a seat somewhere in a visitor stadium.
I want better fucking execution.
Dude, how did you get caught? Right? Because how would you even?
Mean, I was thinking about this and I was like, I mean, the person you sent, like, okay, so if they're in wherever you sent them, Michigan State is the example we're using. All right, so you sent them on the road to see a Michigan State home game.
Right.
Okay, dress them up in Michigan State stuff. They got binoculars. Okay, cool. But then they must have had something else in their possession. They must have had
a big giant red flag.
Yeah, like this big ass binder to write in, or
like a telescope. You know what I mean? They're up in the top deck with a telephoto lens just fixed on Ryan Day.
Can you see me now? Like,
just fixed on him. And they probably have a flag in a banner that says "Go Big Blue," and they're wearing like a Michigan Wolverines pullover from Starter.
Buddy rolls up in a Michigan helmet with the Wolverine symbol on his head. Like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, the other scenario that I came up with, not even saying this is what happened, but maybe somebody got caught in an area of the stadium they shouldn't have been in. Maybe it was a thing where, you sent this person in and they tried to get up into the press box maybe, or like an area off to the side, like an elevated area where...
Do you see how stupid this is?
Yeah, I agree. The biggest question here is how you got caught, because it's so easy not to.
We're talking about something that's not illegal unless you do it a very specific way.
Yeah.
Again, I want to make this really clear. Sign stealing is not illegal in college football. It's not illegal, right? Like, I think we have some Justin Fields tape of Justin Fields talking about Dabo Sweeney and Clemson stealing signs.
Hey, Justin, can you talk a little bit about how you all signaled in the plays during the game this time. Looked like you did a little more traditional huddle as opposed to what we've normally seen throughout the year. So if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we just didn't want them stealing our signals, and that's pretty much why we huddled up a little bit more than we usually do.
Like, what? Are you serious? You can do that. Dabo Sweeney can do that. And that's the thing that's so amazing to me is sign stealing's not illegal. You have to send somebody to another stadium, which is illegal because, again, sending scouts ahead has been illegal since 1994. And that person has to be there for the purpose of stealing signs. That's the only way stealing signs in college football is illegal. And then, even if you do all of that, you have to get caught doing that. So to be in the position that Michigan is in, you have to be really stupid. That's why it is a little surprising to me that Michigan's in this situation because I just don't view Jim Harbaugh as stupid.
Yeah.
But I also want to say it's a little annoying to me that we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Like this feels like there's 1,000 other things we could be talking about, but what is the biggest story in college football today?
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. And you know why this is a big story? Because Jim Harbaugh's on the way out at Michigan.
Yeah, and that's why I say I think the track record is the biggest thing here. I mean,
it is.
The story in and of itself. I mean, it's not like he's, this is nowhere near as bad. If, again, allegedly, right? We always have to say that. But, if this actually went down, I mean, this is nowhere near as bad as the recruiting stuff that allegedly happened. I mean, this is, that's not the point, though. The point is that, hey, yeah, the recruiting, you are being investigated for that recruiting stuff. And now this is going on. And I do have to say, and hey, maybe I'm a hater and I'm open to that. And I'm happy to wear that badge today. But when you said, hey, oh, well, all of a sudden you beat Ohio State a couple times. Now all this stuff is coming out. It's like, yeah, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense to me, man. Like you beat someone who you have zero track record of beating. And now after that, what's all come out? And I just think it's unfortunate because I think Michigan, from a college football playoff resume standpoint, and I know we don't consider last year, even though we do consider last year, like you needed those wins. But now if I'm on the playoff committee, I am saying, yeah, man, what do we think of this? Like how real or how legit is it?
I also think Michigan is in a position where now you have to start asking yourself if Jim Harbaugh is damaging your reputation because you're finally winning games at a very high level. You went to the college football playoff, not to be redundant, but you beat Ohio State twice in a row and you have recruiting violations. And now you're being accused of sign stealing and advanced scouting, which it's ridiculous to me. Yeah. I think he absolutely is. There is no doubt about that. But Delaric is going to start the show by saying hurtful things. Mm-hmm. You're paying $2 to stab me in the heart here. Jim is just getting ready for the Bears next year,
dude.
Thank you.
Why would you do that?
Oh, because I think it's very plausible. It's very plausible. All my Bears friends, all my Bears Twitter, everybody's talking about it. That Jim Harbaugh is going to be the leading candidate because Matt Eberflus is going to get fired. And he's going to get fired. He's been a terrible head coach for the Chicago Bears. He's going to get whacked. And Jim Harbaugh I would not hire Jim, but he would be a perfectly fine candidate. And the thing is, I don't even care if they hire him because he'll be there a year, maybe two. He pisses people off.
Yeah.
And you're going to win because he is going to run a bunch of dudes out and he is going to have a culture of if you are 10 minutes early, you are 15 minutes late, dude. Like you're going to be on time. You're going to be in the building. You're going to perform at a high level or Jim is going to not play you until you ask to be traded or cut. And that's just the way he is. It's putting Colin Kaepernick in. He was very matter of fact about it with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith in San Francisco. I was in the locker room the day he did it. That team was never the same. It was never the same. And I think that's the moment that Jim got run out. He wanted a dual threat quarterback, which Alex Smith was not, but Colin Kaepernick was not ready to lead a team to the highest levels. And he could not make a throw in the Super Bowl to win the game.
Yeah.
They had every opportunity to win a Super Bowl and it went away because Colin just wasn't ready. And Alex Smith went on. Obviously, he had a really good career after San Francisco, but he didn't, he wasn't probably a Super Bowl quarterback in San Francisco, but Jim's just a red ass. And a lot of people get worn out by Jim Harbaugh at a very high pace.
Yeah.
So if the Bears hire him, hey, I understand it. I don't love it. I understand it, but it is what it is. All right. Less of us, more of you. As always, the comment section is brought to you by Bucked Up, the official energy drink of the Monty Show. Every day at this time, we hit the buck shot from Bucked Up. It's a great product, you guys. Get it right now at buckedup.com. Make sure you use the promo code Monty to get 20% off at checkout. And I'll tell you, of all the free samples that we have, Buckshot is by far the number one free sample, and everybody always asks us for it. If you want it in the comment section, maybe we can bring it back next week. I don't know, but it is a great product. This month alone, I think we put out over 300 samples of Buckshot. In the description below, you're going to see a link to get a free shaker cup and 3 free samples from Bucked Up. Go get that. And I just can't say enough. Again, this morning, did I want to get out of bed and work out? I didn't. But you hit that, you hit the Bucked Up, racked BCAAs, put the 6-point, creatine in there, and you go do a back workout, man. That's what it's all about. That's what Bucked Up does. It helps you do what needs to get done because they put exceptional ingredients to make exceptional products that do exactly what they say they're going to do, just like Buckshot. 200 milligrams of caffeine, a bunch of brain food to get you through the rest of your day that apparently is... Do you even lift, bro?
Do you even lift it?
Do you even lift, bro?
What are we doing here? Come on now. I know you do.
What do you bench?
Hey.
Do
Man,
you
that
even
one was a little more difficult to get open, but there we go. 200 milligrams of caffeine, a bunch of brain food. And what brain food means basically is it's a bunch of supplements that help your brain function at a higher level. And there's no spikes of energy and no huge drops. It just lets you be the best version of yourself so you can have the best days, the best end to your days. You got a conference call coming up. You got a pivot table or an Excel spreadsheet or a report you got to get done. Hook it up. Buckshot from buckedup.com. Man, it's so good when it's cold.
Man, smooth today, baby. Smooth.
So good. I'm a watermelon guy. I am. I had been on a blue Raz run, which is really good, but I am a watermelon guy. Buckshot from buckedup.com. Let's
The Monty Show.
Yesterday on the show, we got torched in the comments section by Michigan fans. It's a witch hunt. You guys are just jealous of Jim Harbaugh. Well, it turns out there's a little more to this Jim Harbaugh thing than absolutely nothing. I think this is a really big deal now because, as we told you yesterday on the show, the NCAA notified the Big Ten and Michigan yesterday. They were investigating Michigan football for sign stealing. Now, on its face, everybody was like, everybody steals signs. Yeah, but not everybody sends an assistant coach to their future opponents. And not everybody has their assistant coaches studying tape for the specific reason of stealing signs. And not everybody's assistant coaches are being asked to turn over their computers and being put on leave, suspended with pay today, a Michigan assistant who has been identified as the culprit in this sign stealing scandal. I think this is really, really bad for Jim Harbaugh. I don't know how he gets away from this. Now, if you're not up to date on what happened today, I saw it with ESPN. Pete Thamel had the story this morning that the NCAA has identified the staffer. We're not going to use his name because, frankly, it doesn't seem to do a whole lot of good. But the NCAA has identified a staffer who is a former United States Marine captain as somebody that was basically put in charge of intelligence for the Michigan football department. His job, allegedly, was to break down the signals and communications of future Michigan football opponents. And this allegedly dated all the way back to 2021. And if you do some simple math, you had the COVID dark period where significant violations we now know took place in Michigan football with recruiting. You now know after these allegations were made public that dating all the way back to 2021, the NCAA is alleging these, sign stealing And the funny thing is the verbiage that's being used. A sign stealing operation at Michigan dating back to 2021. And the other hard part for Michigan fans to digest is, well, you've beaten Ohio State 2 years in a row, dating back to 2021. So it's starting to look like 2021 was when they started stealing signs successfully, and it's starting to look like that led to victories. And the other part of this that I think is really hard to get away from, Jake, is there are pictures of this perpetrator. Is that too strong?
No. Nope.
Perpetrator.
Yeah.
On the Michigan sideline, standing next to and behind Jim Harbaugh. And, you know, the problem with these pictures are the video that is on YouTube as well. The video, it's everywhere, frankly, of this specific person who is not an assistant coach. He is a football assistant in charge of intelligence and data analysis. There's video of him in last year's Ohio State game, singularly focused on the Ohio State sideline. When they would signal in an offensive play, the signs that you'll see is like this guy goes to his helmet, goes to his shoulder, and then goes up to the defensive coordinator and says, you know, something in his ear. They change the play and it goes for a loss, which A plus B equals they knew exactly what Ohio State was signaling in, and they put in the proper defense to be in the exact spot. I think it's remarkable, and kudos to you, because without the information, this is exactly what you thought was going to come out, and lo and behold, it came out today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just speaks to Jim Harbaugh's track record. I mean, you look at what Jim thought he could get away with and the brazen nature of that. And this fits right into that thought process. I mean, if you think that you can get on Zoom and you can go and, recruit during the dark period and do all this stuff, you would also then think that you could send one of your staffers on the road to scout games and then bring that very same staffer onto the sideline to communicate signs. I mean, Jim, did you really think that nobody was going to find out? Were you really not sophisticated enough to have at least two staffers in on this? Were you really not sophisticated enough to say, okay, I'm going to send one face on the road to get the intel, and then I'm going to bring another face into this, and those two are going to work together, and the second face is going to be the one on the sideline, so it's not the same guy throughout the process? I mean, is that really rocket science? I mean, if you're going to cheat, at least be good at it. This is not difficult, and I think that's why the whole, hey, they caught them on like financials thing, I thought it was totally feasible. But I'm not surprised that this is how simple it is, because this is how Jim acts. He thinks he can do whatever he wants and get away with it, when in fact that it's the exact opposite.
Do you really think that's where he's at mentally?
Yeah,
where he's like, it doesn't matter, I'm Jim Harbaugh and you're not.
Yeah, I'm Jim Harbaugh and we're Michigan. We're a blue blood, a premier program in college football and basketball, honestly, and yeah, we're going to do this stuff because I don't think that they're going to be able to prove anything. I don't think that they're going to be able to. So maybe someone will throw accusations at us, but accusations are baseless. They have nothing, right? They can't prove anything, right? So I think Jim is saying, hey, we're going to do everything under the sun to beat the Ohio States and the Penn States and the folks we need to beat. Unless your name is TCU in the college football playoff, which is the other point here. You were so good at stealing signs, you found a way to lose in the college football playoff.
Twice. I mean, they got boat raced by Georgia too. Like the thing that is so hard to get away from here. And if you look in the comments section on yesterday's video, and I haven't seen the comments yet today, but everybody is saying that this is an NCAA problem and sign stealing's not illegal. Sign stealing is not illegal until you do it so brazenly that it pisses people off.
Yeah. And
I think that's what happened here. Like there is all kinds of reporting. Pete Thamel, Ross Dellinger, Mandel at The Athletic, like they're all talking to Big Ten coaches who are saying, yeah, we knew they were doing this and there was nothing we could do about it. And we told them, hey, we knew you're doing this. And if you look across the Big Ten, and I hadn't really thought about this until it was in this Pete Thamel interview on SportsCenter today. There's a lot of Michigan opponents using wristbands now. And lo and behold, you go back and look at the highlights, and almost all of their opponent quarterbacks are wearing wristbands because they know that Michigan is stealing signs.
Yeah.
And it's wild that you would be this out front about it. I mean, this is Jose Altuve rounding the bases, telling people not to rip his shirt off, right? Like, I mean, it is remarkable that Jim Harbaugh thought he was not going to get caught here. And the bigger issue now is sustainable long-term damage has been done to Michigan football, because you don't get the NCAA acting the way that they're acting now. And I hope that people understand this. This is not just some slap on the wrist that's going to happen. Did you see the rationale as to why the NCAA made this announcement now before sending an official letter of accusations to Michigan? Because they have so much evidence of these sign stealing activities, whatever you want to call them.
The scheme.
They have so much evidence now that they wanted to stop Michigan from taking the sign stealing to another level. They were concerned that it is causing competitive disadvantage for Michigan opponents. So they noticed Michigan, they noticed the Big Ten, and they noticed future opponents of Michigan, because they were certain that Michigan was gaining a competitive advantage over their adversaries. That's how serious and how much evidence the NCAA has. And now you put this in tandem with the recruiting violations. How do you not have a lack? And I know this is a terrible thing to say out loud, and it's a rough thing to say if you're a Michigan fan and to hear if you're a Michigan fan. How do you not have a lack of institutional control charge against Michigan? Because your football coach, who you suspended for 3 games, you, Michigan, self-penalized Jim Harbaugh with a 3-game suspension this year. So you're acknowledging his wrongdoing. Now you've been noticed that he was, and maybe it's him on his own, because I think it's awfully difficult, you guys. If you look at these pictures, this cat is on the sideline standing directly behind Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Talking to the defensive coordinators and the defensive assistant coaches. I think it's awfully difficult at this point to say, oh, well, Jimmy had no idea.
Well, and I think when you look at these pictures too, I think part of what Jim's thought process is, hey, like anybody with a normal eye is never going to see this dude.
Never.
Like if the red circle wasn't there, you'd be like, wait, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Where is he?
And you look at him, he's in the locker room celebrating Big Ten championships.
Yeah.
He's with the players. He's with the administrators on the sideline at the big house. He is wearing coaching gear, holding play charts, holding like critical information in his hands. Jim Harbaugh knows this guy. Jim Harbaugh knows exactly who this guy is.
And that's why I say, like, yesterday, okay, Michigan fan, like you want to die on the hill and say that we just hate Michigan, and
because we got like 30, 40, 50 of those comments.
Yeah, that this is a witch hunt and this is, just fake out allegations and all this nonsense. Well, I don't know how you deny Jim knowing this dude. I mean, he's standing next to him in the middle of a game on the sideline. You're really telling me Jim doesn't know this guy?
And furthermore, look at Jim Harbaugh's statement. I do not have any knowledge or information regarding the University of Michigan football program illegally stealing signals, nor have I directed any staff member or others to participate in an off-campus scouting assignment. I have no awareness of anyone on our staff having done that or having directed that action. Okay, Jim, I believe you wholeheartedly, 100%. But now I can't call you Jim anymore. I got to call you Pat Fitzgerald because it doesn't matter. Here's the problem that Pat Fitzgerald and Jim Harbaugh and all these other coaches, Art Briles today, Art Briles found, not responsible today in court on the Baylor sexual negligence claims against him. A judge said that he is not liable and they were dismissed. But why is Art Briles never going to work again? Why is Pat Fitzgerald going to have a very difficult time finding a job again? Because it doesn't matter if you knew or not. Your job is to know, Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Your job, Jim, is to know that when a coach or a an assistant, call him whatever you want, who's on your sideline, who you have regular contact with during the course of a game. It's your job to know that he was taking part in illegal activities, and there's hard evidence that he's taking part in illegal activities. And again, I want to remind you, sign stealing in college football is not in and of itself illegal. What's illegal is using technology and video to steal signs.
Because it's illegal.
Going to venues to scout your future opponents is illegal. This dude has been photographed at future opponent stadiums. Like this is as blatant as it gets.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Did Jim know? It doesn't matter. Did Jim direct it and architect this whole thing? It doesn't matter. You're the head football coach. Your job was to know.
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
And I think now the bigger issue is, like Michigan fans saying it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. Okay, but tell me what Jim Harbaugh has not done. Show me evidence that he wasn't on a Zoom call during the COVID dark period watching a workout. Show me evidence that he didn't meet in person with recruits during the COVID dark period. Well, Monty was just buying a kid dinner. I don't care. It's against the rules. It's against the rules.
Yeah.
You can't watch workouts on Zoom. It's against the rules. You can't take a kid or have in-person recruiting visits during the COVID dark period. It's against the rules. You can't steal signs using video or electronics. It's against the rules. And the hardest part is now Jim Harbaugh has to resign. And that's, if you look at our lead today, Jim Harbaugh is out. People are openly calling for him to step aside until this investigation is finished. And I actually think that's what he should do.
Well, and I think the hard part, if you're Michigan, is it's Jim and the staff. And obviously the whole staff isn't going to step aside while this gets figured out, but that's the issue if you're Michigan with this particular type of behavior. Is like, hey, okay, with the recruiting stuff, okay, it was Jim, and Jim himself personally as an individual thought that he could do, those things that he's accused of doing, allegedly did. Okay, that's one thing. That's a Jim problem himself. This is not, like, I don't buy for a second that A, Jim didn't know, B, that Jim didn't have at least 4 or 5 people looped in on this particular thing.
That's hard to believe he didn't.
Because what no one wants to say is, okay, it's one thing to send Buddy out onto the other campuses and at the other games of future opponents and get their signs and all this, but that's just one piece. Now you got to bring all that information or intel back, and you got to work it into a system that the players understand. You got to be able to work it into, at a minimum. Okay, let's take the players out of it. At a minimum, you got to be able to have a system with the DC or the OC to say, hey, this is the scheme they're running. This is what they're doing.
And it was specifically the Michigan defense versus the future opponent's offense. This cat, and again, go on YouTube and Twitter. The video's all over the place of this football assistant watching the Ohio State sideline. They signal in their play, and he goes into a bunch of signals, hits the helmet, touches the shoulder, punches the fist forward, then shots over to the defensive coordinator, whispers in his ear, he sends in a hand signal. Like, at this, you knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Let's stop this game of, well, Jim didn't know.
Yeah.
Come on. Like you said, I mean, this is do you know, unlike what, do you think this was a birthday gift for Jim Harbaugh? Okay, you guys, let's set up a scheme.
Schemers.
Where we go to other stadiums and steal signs, and then we just give Jim Harbaugh wins over Ohio State 2 years in a row for his birthday. He'll never know we did it. Come on. Are you kidding me?
Do you think that Jim Harbaugh went to his defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, and said, hey, don't tell me anything about it, but Jesse, why don't you go ahead and do whatever you have to do to get the other team's signals? Do you really think that's how this went?
And the best part is everybody, I am of the belief, and what I've heard is everybody videotapes the sidelines. They watch because the TV does it for you. You get a video package, and those signs are on video.
Yeah.
How many Saturdays are you watching football? Watch football this weekend. You're going to see teams signaling in plays.
Why? And that's the bigger question, too. I think it's the best point. You didn't need to send this guy out.
No.
It's all over the film. It's on tape. Like, that's what I'm trying to understand. What was the exact advantage you were trying to get? Because everything that this guy who he sent out on the road was going to see, you could have already seen on film. You didn't need to do this.
Is this worse than Bill Belichick and the Patriots? Like stealing audio signal from the coaches' boxes of their opponents?
I mean, I think it's, we can characterize it or not worse or the same. The reality is the intent is the same.
It's dumber.
Yeah.
And there's everybody comparing it to like the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
It's dumber because it's not illegal to steal signs in football.
Yeah.
Like it's not illegal to steal signs in Major League Baseball.
No, that's not what we're talking about.
When does it become illegal?
Yeah.
When you start using video and electronics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is what it is.
And that's why, there was I wouldn't call it a scandal, but there was a story, I think last season in baseball where, I can't remember who it was. It was a very under the radar thing, but one of the teams was using Apple Watches to communicate. There was like a technology piece involved, and that caused baseball to get involved. And it just, the reality is the intent was to do something nefarious and to get a competitive advantage. And again, I'm not going to humor Michigan fan today. Dude, you have no leg to stand on here.
None.
The NCAA, for everything that they're not, because I am not an NCAA guy or fan, but they don't behave this way if they have nothing. You don't go, public, if you will. You don't go and notify everybody just to have it come out in the news if you don't have a pile of evidence. So the conversation should not be whether this happened or not. In my opinion, it definitely happened.
It did.
The only question is Jim going to honorably resign, or are we going to have to punch you in the face and fire you? Like, what's it going to be?
The other problem that you have for Michigan football is all these games are going to be vacated.
Yeah.
If he's found guilty, all these games will be vacated. And you're not taking the wins away. Sure, erase them from the record book. You still beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. But it's a bad, every game he coaches, I think the punishment gets worse.
You know what the reality is? They don't need to take any games away because you haven't won any games that mattered. You haven't.
Well,
you haven't won a national championship. You didn't win in the college football
I actually
playoff.
think the Ohio State games are significant because it was surprising that they beat Ohio State 2 years in a row, including at the Shoe. As Penn State's going to find out tomorrow, it's an incredibly difficult joint to go and win at.
Yeah,
and that game is everything. It is one of the best rivalries in football. I think it's huge. I do. All right. Less of us, more of you. I'm sure you guys are waiting to wade in on this. I tell you every single day that our comment section on the show is presented by Bucked Up Energy, the official energy drink of the Monty Show. Backed by popular demand, the free samples of Buckshot. So many people the last week were like, hey, where's the link for free samples? Get your free samples of Buckshot right now in the description below. You guys, it is, in my opinion, the single best product I use every day. 200 milligrams of caffeine. Again, I hit it first thing this morning. It did not help me hit the driver straight today. I golfed this morning. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jake beat my pants off today.
I think I've hit it
but
every time.
You have hit it every time.
Yeah.
I hit 200 balls on the driving range before we went out and played.
Right.
And I probably hit 75 driver today. And I did not slice a single driver on the range. First tee. Bye-bye. Like the most aggressively annoying effing thing in golf. Dominate on the range, get dominated on the course. Like,
what now? Let me tell you what now.
So let's pop a Buckshot so we can dominate the rest of the show. Hey, look at that. One twist.
Let's
I
go,
opened
baby.
it today.
You lift
200 milligrams of caffeine, a bunch of brain food. So every day is your best day. Cheers to you, friends. Yummy, baby. I love it. This is a Blue Raz today. All their flavors are great. Go get a sampler pack of Bucked Up, Buckshot. Hook it up in the description below. Quite literally, it's 6 of them free right to your front door. Check it out. In the link in the description below. You need supplements. I'm telling you, the 6-point creatine is the best creatine mix I have ever used. Make sure you hook it up. Use the promo code Monty to get 20% off at checkout. Let's see who's wild in this afternoon. John Teal for $2. John, let's make it good. Your first in today. Jim is cheating like Nick Nolte in Blue Chips. Oh, Nick Nolte in Blue Chips. You got to love Nick Nolte and Blue Chips, don't you? Brian, $5. So he's in 2 places at once. In-game scouting is illegal. No, it's actually, he's not in 2 places at once.
Dude, how are you this confused?
Here's what you're missing. They sent him to places like Ohio State. They sent him to places like Greg Schiano at Rutgers is probably the loudest critic of this. And again, I want to point out the common overwhelming belief is coaches got so upset because it was so blatant that Michigan knew the exact calls coming into the game. They're probably the coaches who went to the NCAA because Michigan in the Ohio State game, I think it's the Ohio State game, the Penn State game, the Michigan State game. They were in the exact right defense like 4 series in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it was the Michigan State game. They had every single call, every single signal. They had every single one of them. And they were like, their defense was in the exact right formation every single time. That's what we're talking about. He's not going to Indiana to steal signs from Indiana. Michigan's twice as good as Indiana is. It's Ohio State. Those are the games that piss people off. So we can sit here and try and laugh this off. How is he at the game and at other games at the same time? You're looking for a way to excuse this as a bunch of BS. There's photographs of him at other stadiums.
Why did they lose in the college football playoff regularly? Oh, that's right, because you didn't know who you were going to play. That's right. There's no way to forecast forward what your matchup is going to be. So you got that ass beat 2 years in a row.
So from 2021, 2022, and now in 2023, you're dominating the Big Ten. You're by far the best team. But what happened against Georgia in the college football playoff? You got crushed. What happened against TCU? You got crushed. Because you can't advance scout those games, to Jake's point. So if the evidence didn't line up, and Brian, listen, man, I appreciate the $5. If the evidence didn't line up, we'd be having a different conversation. But this is so crystal clear. Here's what they did. Here's how. And the sad part is, it was never in question how they did it. It was never in question. The video has been out there of the coaches being frustrated that Michigan had their playbook. There was some belief that they were going the extra mile, like over the top to win every single play, every single snap. That's when you get in trouble with this stuff. It's not the 3rd and 2 at the goal line in the 4th quarter where you decided, okay, we're gonna steal their sign here.
Notre Dame, our mother.
Right? That's not what this was. This was Rutgers. They had every play call against Rutgers, to the point where Greg Schiano didn't answer questions in the halftime interview. And we can't play it because it's copyright. But
Yeah.
we watched the video. Greg Schiano ignores the question the reporter asked him on ABC or Fox, I think it was, hey, Greg, what are you going to do to make adjustments at halftime? He blew that question off and went straight to, there is some odd stuff going on here. We know what's going on here, and it's not right. Just like
Yeah.
The other coaches knew.
Yeah.
But did Michigan stop? They did not. Did they tone it back and be like, all right, hey, maybe we only use the signs if it's within 14 points in the second half? Okay, I could totally get down with that.
Well, and I think if you're Greg Schiano and Rutgers, you understand, okay, we're Rutgers. This is Michigan we're talking about. I mean, if you're going to go, it's the old adage, hey, if you're going to go for the top dog, you damn well better not lose, right? You better have, like, just undisputable, rock solid, concrete evidence that this is happening. And I agree with you. I think that list of individuals at these different member institutions in the Big Ten started to grow and started to grow and started to grow.
And the financial evidence, where this cat is in these, like, man, you're dead to rights, because notice that this kid, this football assistant, what did he immediately do? Deleted his Twitter, deleted his Instagram. And why is that? Because there were pictures of him at different stadiums. So do you think it's a stretch to go back to the weeks where he was in these other towns and college towns and pull his credit card receipts? Because if the NCAA asks Michigan for them, Michigan has to provide them. Because do you really think the kid paid his own dime?
No.
So they're going to ask Michigan for the expense reports for this employee. Michigan has to provide them. They have to.
To which I say, Jim, do you want to resign or do you want to be fired?
I think it's inevitable. And again, Brian, I would love to agree with you, but I think you're just in a situation, they're standing on your balls, dude.
Yeah.
Like you have universities, and I've been told Michigan and Rutgers, or Michigan State and Rutgers, are two of the loudest ones that put video packages together where they showed that Michigan adjusted linebackers. You see, allegedly, you see those signs up in the air and you see the coaches signaling in the offensive play call of the quarterback. You see this guy on the sideline going through his machinations, and you see Michigan's defense rotate to the exact right spot to stop the play that was called in.
It's a defense.
Dude, you're dead to rights.
Yeah. And by the way, Michigan fan, can I just ask you this too, since you're so ready to die for Jim? What the hell has Jim Harbaugh done for you?
That's my point.
Like, it's not like this guy is Kirby Smart. It's
What
not
does
like
he
he's
want?
Nick Saban,
What does he
right?
want?
Like you're really telling me that a properly run Michigan that's up and up is not contending at least for a spot in the college football playoff?
You could hire any coach you want.
Yeah.
Any coach
Come
should
on.
take that job. It's a great job. It's a great university. It's a great football program. And he's going to wind up coaching the Bears. Kyle Wilson, what's up, Kyle? Good to see you. $2. NCAA punishment. University of Michigan has to play at Appy State. Oh, man. One of the great upsets in the history. The pick shown is allowed. Guy, and Brian, don't pay us any more money. Just seriously, you really think that these aren't damning pictures of him on the sideline? When they have him at other stadiums? When they have him watching the opposing offense signal in the plays, and then he's making signals like this? Again, go look, it's on Twitter and YouTube. The kid, he bangs his fist on his head, taps his shoulder, pushes his fist forward, which is sending in play calls to his captains. And then he goes over to the defensive coordinator and says, hey, 0-2 banana. And the defensive coordinator calls the play in.
Want better fucking execution.
Do you really? And he's pictured right next to Jim Harbaugh.
So if this dude is innocent, why is he on the sideline? Why has he got play sheets?
And again, Jim Harbaugh, I don't have any knowledge or information regarding the University of Michigan program illegally stealing signals. So you can't say, well, I don't know that person.
So what did he
Come
not
on,
say
man.
there? What did he not say, though? He didn't say, hey, I have no knowledge of us stealing signs. We steal signs all the time. I just have no knowledge of us stealing signs illegally. You see what I'm saying? This is typical Jim Harbaugh behavior. So with all due respect, Brian, I really appreciate you tipping us and sharing your opinion. But until you come to the middle and agree that there's smoke and fire here and the Michigan football program looks pretty bad right now, yeah, I agree. Don't tip us. Don't, because it's pointless for you right now. You're fighting a losing battle. You're trying to put your head in the sand on something that is plain as day.
I mean, there are quite literally pictures of him where he's outside of opposing stadiums.
Over a guy who's done nothing for you. Like, Jim Harbaugh has not done
You
enough,
haven't won anything.
dude. Like, and the problem is every time I've said that leading up to this day, Michigan fan was like, oh, the Ohio State wins. He's beating Ohio State. We're heading in the right direction. Forever Jimmy Poo in those khakis. Only to find out he only did that because he cheated. Okay, well, if you want to die on the hill for a cheater, that's fine. But I'm certainly not going to do that. I'd rather have Marcus Freeman. I'd rather have Greg Schiano. I'd rather have some jamoke of a head coach who maybe isn't talented enough, but runs the program on the up and up. And I don't have to worry about constantly being investigated over NCAA violations of every variety, apparently.
And the fact that this cat hid his social media now and deleted his social media, and I think it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
And all of the pictures of him on the sideline, all the pictures of him with the trophies, with Harbaugh, with he's
right in the middle of it, man. He's right in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. And hey, you know what? You got caught. Now you have to deal with it, man. There's no way around it anymore, because you have to deal with it. Zach Sloter for $5. No way that Harbaugh steps down. He's at a blue blood program. This happens at Iowa State. Matt Campbell is gone. Go Cyclones. I agree.
Well, yeah,
I agree. But it's not like Iowa State hasn't had their gambling scandal. I mean, it's all in how you handle it. When you get caught, you have to own it. And Jim Harbaugh, he's in all of this trouble to begin with because he wouldn't own up to what he did.
Yes.
That's the worst part of this. Own up to what you did. We joke about it in golf. Swing the club and deal with the consequences, man. You want to go and steal signs illegally? Hey, you're going to get caught. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Cleveland Rocks for $5. Love Idaho and highly recommend. Boise State football game was super. Browns beat San Francisco without Mr. Washcloth. Browns defense is number 1 in the NFL. And Deshaun took all the first-team reps, by the way, in practice, so it looks like he's going to play this weekend, which may be good, may be bad. How about your quarterback making a tackle, probably a game-saving tackle against the 49ers? I know Deshaun's guaranteed, but, man, it feels like you have a long way to go before the Browns make that deal good.
Yeah.
Carson for $2. How the hell do you get a Marine officer involved?
That's what I'm saying. So this guy's a former Marine and is supposed to be, and again, I'm not even joking, individuals who are capable of becoming Marines and then are Marines and then are discharged and on their way in life. You know how disciplined you are coming out of the Marine Corps. So I'm still asking, how the hell did this guy get caught? This guy's supposed to be and he said, I believe he said it's on his LinkedIn, right? He's all about strategy and
But how did he get caught? He got caught because they got greedy. When you're stealing, you are greedy. So you steal every single sign against Rutgers and you run their asses over.
Yeah.
You beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. And people are left scratching their heads. I told you yesterday, I was talking to a dude about this yesterday who was like, you have Ryan Day, one of the best coaches in college football, who's like, I have no idea how they're doing. That's the question I've heard multiple times. People couldn't understand how Michigan was doing it. They were in the perfect formation every single play. And that's when people are like, wait a minute. You can't get greedy. Hey, maybe, call me crazy. Maybe it needs to be within 2 touchdowns in the second half. And then maybe we only use it if we need it.
That's what I mean. You're
and then against Ohio State, okay, every snap against Ohio State, totally get it.
You're not even good at cheating. Not only are you not an elite head coach, you're not good at cheating, because anybody who knows anything about cheating or driving too fast, you don't do 100 on the freeway for 5 miles straight, right? You're asking for trouble.
No.
Hey, dude, do what you need to do to win the ball game, but then let's make it adventurous. Let's make it so nobody asks questions. Let's use the intel in the proper way. Let's not have the guy you sent out on the road come down to the sideline and be the guy giving the signal.
Bro, let's it's funny you say that.
What are we doing?
You know, the other thing everybody was saying about this guy, and again, I'm intentionally not using his name, but you know what everybody was saying about this cat? He's infamous around the Big Ten. He's been to so many places. He's infamous around the Big Ten. He's been on so many sidelines when people are like, dude, they know this guy so well that it was not hard to draw a straight line to him. Like, that's how flagrant it was.
Yeah.
Right. And that you're doing this in advanced scouting. And this guy's career arc, for those of you who don't know at Michigan, he moved up rapidly. Right. He moved up. And what they're theorizing, and we'll see when the NCAA releases its letter of allegations, its statement of allegations, which is how it goes. Again, another weird oddity. They haven't released their statement of allegations, but they wanted to stop Michigan with their competitive advantage from cheating, they say. But this guy became so elite at sign stealing, he allegedly just moved into video sign stealing. It like all the things you can't do. It's remarkable. Brian again says you're allowed to steal signs in game with no electric. God, Brian, I appreciate the money, dude. I don't know what
you must be trolling.
You
must
are.
be trolling.
You are.
Yeah,
You're just you're likes to fight guy.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the bread, dude. But you could not be more. You're either wildly uninformed or you're just being a red ass. Either way. John Teal for $2. David Shaw could replace Jim again. Seriously.
But like David Shaw is a great example. Hey, had some really good years with CMC and, Bryce Love. And like you had, Andrew Luck at one point. Like you had good years, but then, yeah, it just kind of went downhill for
Academics.
you. Yeah. And in the academic challenges. Okay. I respect David Shaw. Hey, it's my time. I need to step away and I'm going to move on. Great. Let's wait for the next big opening. But I got news for you guys. A man of David Shaw's integrity, I don't believe wants to be the guy that replaces Jim Harbaugh. Yep. I don't think David Shaw wants anything to do with that.
Marcus Aurelius says confirmation bias is real and isn't going to get undone with this clown. Take the blinders off and have an open mind. Investigation is not guilt. So what's the open mind then? So he's been seen at other stadiums. He's on video. He's an analyst. He's an analyst, which means he analyzes things, yet he's on the sidelines calling plays. I've never seen an analyst call plays. He's on the sideline. They have long form video of him looking at the signals from the offense coming in, signaling into the captains on defense, going to the defensive coordinator who confirms the call. The NCAA said that they sent notice to Michigan, the Big Ten, and their future opponents because they're concerned about competitive disadvantage. So you tell me again, take the blinders off, have an open mind. Okay, what am I, because we've seen this before.
Yeah.
We've seen this before. This is not new. So you're saying that I have a bias and I'm only willing to see it one way. I'm very commonsensical.
So should I feel good or we feel good about saying, hey, Jim, so if we're going to do what you say, and I'm genuinely trying to humor you here, taking the blinders off to me would mean Jim never knew about this. This was, the defensive coordinator and his staff scheming without Jim's knowledge. And Jim had no idea that this guy was on the sideline.
No idea.
Or if he knew he was on the sideline, he was lied to. And that's as simple as it is. Well, in that case, how the hell is he your head coach? How does that work? Help
you guys,
me.
The NCAA's first request to this guy was, we need to see your computer. They were so concerned about the level of video technology that was being used that they wanted this cat's computer first thing. Like, if you just thought that he was standing on the sideline because Brian or whoever that was commenting about this saying, oh, hey, he's just standing on the sideline stealing signs. Why are they asking for his computer? If he's just so brilliant, he can stand on the sideline and steal signals, which is not illegal. Why are they asking for his computer? Why did they notify Michigan State and every future opponent of the Wolverines? And why did they do it before they released a letter of allegations? I mean, because Jim doesn't know what's going on. I mean, if we're giving Jim Harbaugh the benefit of the doubt, he has no idea what's going on. He just somehow mysteriously started winning big games that weren't the college football playoff because he got boat raced in those games where, they couldn't steal signs ahead of time because they didn't know who they were playing. So,
And by the way, you can't use technology on the sideline to steal signs.
But why was this guy known across the Big Ten? And why is everybody in the Big Ten calling him infamous? Why is the NCAA asking for his computer? If they didn't do anything wrong, and I mean, if we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, they did nothing wrong. We're just supposed to ignore all of this? What are you serious?
Well, because it's Jim Harbaugh and he's won 5 national championships in his career.
Then how do you argue come on, you guys.
Right.
Jim R says denial, not just a river in Egypt, apparently. Mike Smith, the NCAA rarely leaks info unless they have the evidence to back it up. That's exactly what this is.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
And it's what I said yesterday that you guys all said, oh, you're wrong. You're wrong. They already have the evidence.
With all due respect.
They already have it. They know the answers to the question that they're about to ask you. They have it all because all the coaches around the Big Ten and all the athletic directors around the Big Ten were so pissed at this guy that they gathered the information for him. Like, you guys, your heads are in the sand if you think that this is just some, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Arizona Buckeye says Ohio State is dominant for a decade. Harbaugh on the chopping block. This cheating program allegedly begins in 2021 when they finally beat the Buckeyes. Not once, but twice, including in Columbus.
Yeah.
He hadn't won. That's the other part that you can't ignore. And I agree with you. What are you fighting for Jim Harbaugh for?
Yeah. I mean, again,
don't you want this guy to get whacked?
He's not the guy that has 7 national championships like somebody in Tuscaloosa. He's not the guy that's got back-to-back national championships in Athens, right? He's not the guy that
he's not all SRT.
Yeah, dude. Like he's not, Ryan Day, and I'm not, and again, probably doesn't apply because we're not talking about Ohio State. But even if you're a Michigan fan trying to hate on Ohio State, being like, oh, well, let's look into Ohio State. I don't need to because they didn't get caught. Even if they were doing, I don't care because they haven't been caught. So it's not a speeding ticket unless you got caught. And that's why I'm saying, if you're a Michigan fan, don't be pissed at us because we think your boy's guilty. Be pissed at him because he's so terrible at what he does.
And you wanted him fired.
Caught.
You wanted him fired before he started beating Ohio State.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So you were on the verge of being fired and you needed that magic pill to get you over the hump. You needed that magic pill to get your AD off your neck. Oh, I got an idea.
Wild.
Let's bring up somebody who's very disciplined, very sharp, former Marine, knows what the hell he's doing. And let's send him out because we know if we send him out because of his life experience, he's going to be really good at this. To which I say, hey, that's a brilliant idea. That's actually a really smart thought to have come up with that. What's not smart is having that very same person roll up on your sideline. What's not smart is thinking that you can send the same guy out to everybody in their mom's stadium and think nobody was going to notice.
You can't have this guy on the sideline sending in defensive signals.
That's just not good enough.
Why was he not in a box? Why was he? I don't understand. If you're going to steal signs, have him be clandestine. Have him be somewhere with a headset or a walkie-talkie talking to the defensive coordinator. That they have him on tape sending in signals is wild. Brandon Butler for $5. Do you think this does more damage to his rep with the NFL? Recruiting isn't, and issues for the pros. Cheating is. I think if Jim Harbaugh, I think he's leaving Michigan, right? Even the most diehard Wolverine fan, you'd have to assume this is his last ride because you're not going to be able to hire him. I think he is already feeling a significant amount of pressure to step aside until the investigation is over. And I would not be surprised if he took a paid leave of absence. I could absolutely see that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're Michigan, how do you not take action now? Because this season this is supposedly the best football team you have ever had at Michigan. Now it's all shrouded in rain clouds. And I don't know, Brandon, I don't think you can hire him for a year or two, at least in the NFL. I think he's going to be that guy that's going to take some time off, be a consultant, probably work with his brother a little bit, like
jump in the TV world,
hang around the game. But I don't think you can hire. He's going to have a show cause, especially if they drop the hammer on him for this. And it's another reason why Michigan should consider having him step away, because it will lessen the penalties down the road. But they're going to drop the hammer on him. There's no doubt. Cleveland Rocks, your last top 4 college teams in the playoff. Boy, we talked about this the other day, and I think it's one of the most difficult answers to put forward.
Don't you have to have Michigan?
Oh,
and they've got everyone's signals. Oh, that's right. Not in the college football playoff. That's right. My bad.
And that
sorry, guys.
Again, I think that's your best point. And yes, in Cowboy, why did it not work against TCU and Sonny Dykes? Because you couldn't scout them ahead of time. You didn't know you were going to play them.
You're telling me TCU's got better talent than Ohio State? No.
Come on.
No.
In the college, and it happened with Georgia too. Because Georgia kicked their ass.
Yeah.
Because you can't forward scout. You don't have time.
That's what would bother me so much, man.
It takes time to decipher signals.
Do you guys understand that a video department at any serious athletic program, whether it's college, professional, whatever, even golfers, dude, the video department is robust. Like you got a guy that his sole purpose is just cutting start to end on each individual play of a football game.
Of every player, of every all 22. There is a camera angle called the all 22. There's a camera angle for the head coach, a camera angle for the sidelines. Like, do you understand the volume of tape that comes out of every single football game? Because you get when you're going to play, like Michigan's playing Michigan State this weekend, you get hours and hours and hours of footage on Michigan State, and they give it to you. No problem.
It's not illegal
because you're not allowed to go and scout them in person. So it's wild, dude. It's absolutely wild.
The Monty Show.
Do you believe for a second that Jim Harbaugh survives this? Do you guys believe that Jim Harbaugh can he coach past this? Can he somehow just claim naivete that he didn't know? Ignorance. Do you believe for a second that there is any way, shape, or form that Jim Harbaugh makes it through this?
No, I mean, I think the problem is just like we've seen before in many different cases. Like, as a head coach, you're not afforded that luxury of pleading ignorance because it's like, oh, you didn't know? Well, you should have known. Oh, you did know? You're an awful person, right? I mean, that's the unwinnable situation that we inevitably see play out over and over again in college athletics. And I think that Jim Harbaugh, the problem also for Jim that I don't see a ton of people talking about is that Jim has fought the NCAA every step of the way. Himself personally. Now, Michigan on this is cooperating as an institution, giving the NCAA whatever it asks, so that's cool. But Jim himself is going to fight you. And I think that when you're a head coach and you've got pictures all over a place of this guy standing next to you on the sideline, and you combine those pictures with the evidence they have in both in text message and on video, not even just from Michigan, but from the other member institutions in the conference. Like, I don't know how Jim would survive. And frankly, I don't know that Jim would want to survive. I don't know that
I don't think so.
I don't know that he's so married to dealing with this when, let's be honest, you've got enough money to go home and sit on the couch for the rest of your life. Right now, guys like Jim and others who coach at that level are not that type of personality, and I totally respect that. But that's the reality of the situation. Jim could go open up a coaching clinic and be fine. Like he'd be more than fine. So I'm just sitting here saying I don't feel like Jim is incentivized to fight and tooth and claw his way through this thing. Now, what I will say is it is a possibility that Jim's pride and his thoughts and beliefs are what's going to fuel him to try to survive. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe, because again, he's been brazen through this whole thing with how they've acted and the fact that this cat's on your staff and, that you would be okay with that is wild to me. But you can't tell me Jim didn't know. So if Jim did that thinking, what are they going to be able to prove? I mean, they're not going to actually catch us, even if someone saw him doing it.
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code MONTY, MONTY, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
they're not going to be able to prove and get me fired. So maybe that's what motivates him to stay. But I can't see a way where he, A, survives this, but B, gets out of this thing with full innocence. I can't believe that happens.
No, I don't think so. And one of the more interesting things today is look at this message board. This is a Tennessee message board. Do you guys notice the date on that? That'd be December 1st, 2022. Read that. One of my little brother's friends is a, quote, scout for them, Michigan. They paid him to travel to UT Vandy to try and steal our signs. He's from Nashville originally, so he just went anyway after our loss since it was Thanksgiving. Said he and the others never are allowed to talk about it. Interesting. So message boards knew about this in December. Yet then look at January 17th of this year. No clue if related, but I posted on here a couple of months ago about a mutual friend of mine that was working for Michigan, going to other schools' games, stealing plays. They'd pay his flights, lodging, food, and seats right behind the team's bench for him to get video. Michigan is pulling out all the stops, it seems. Like this is, again, you guys, this is an open secret.
Yeah.
Now. And we also know that, Stallions, if you look at this, stole opponents' signals during the week, watching TV copies, then flew to the game and stood next to Michigan offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis and told him what coverage and pressure he was about to face. Stallions wrote in text messages. Now, remember, good old Uncle Monty warned you. Text messages are not the way, friends.
Right.
I think it's pretty rare to find the right type of people who can grasp a vision of the future and want to team up and run shit. And we all got our own stuff going on, but we all got some pretty unique approaches. Basically, the way I see it, there's a future Ohio State head coach and staff out there somewhere preparing for it, whether they know it or not. And we have a group of a half dozen actively planning stuff, 15 or so years out, and another dozen or two on board. So by the time it's ready to rock and roll, we're all on the same page, and we quickly make Michigan the ultimate standard.
Schemers trying to control their little worlds.
Bro.
So Mr. Stallions, who is the suspended University of Michigan staffer, had a long-term plan to become the head coach at Michigan. And the thing that's remarkable is he's told people in text messages, I've grown up my entire life with a vision to coach football at Michigan. And you look at his text messages and you look at his manifesto. How is Michigan going to get away from this guy? Because he told friends, he told family members openly.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to this game to do this. Like,
hey guys,
going to Tennessee Vandy because Tennessee, remember, before Hooker got hurt and they were a national championship contender, Michigan might have seen them. And they go to the game. And he went to the, how about Kirby Smart talking about the fact that, they scouted us. He was supposedly at our game.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think there's been, Kirby, Matt Rule, Prime, like there's been a bunch of dudes who have come out and talked about the fact that, sign stealing on the field, like during the game against your opponent's legal, but sending guys out and stuff like that is illegal, and we won't stand for it. And all these guys, what's really funny is all I keep hearing about is, hey, why don't we have mics and helmets? Why don't we have technology?
I don't know.
I mean, I whether it's, Nick Saban or Matt Rule or Prime or who the hell ever, they all want helmet technology like the NFL. And my only question is, why do we not do this already? The college football system is the minor leagues of the NFL, and we all know it. Why are we not just matching? Why complicate it?
I think the other part of this is two things. You're going to hear from Jim Harbaugh in about 5 minutes on this. But listen to Nick Saban talking about stealing signs.
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't know anything about anybody come to the SEC championship game or whatever. And, I don't have a lot of information or background on, all this sign stealing stuff. I'm kind of focused on our team. But, I know back in the old days when I was in the NFL, there was a time when, you could send out scouts and, scout a game, personnel, and that type of thing. I don't think it was geared towards sign stealing, but that was allowed. They changed that rule, I think, some time back, and we've never had that in college for a long, long time, so I think you're probably aware of that. I do think the helmet communicator is probably a real positive thing for the game. Everybody's, you can't steal signs and do any of this stuff if you have a helmet communicator, and I think it's, I think it would be a good thing.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
Nick Saban not pulling any punches about it. And that's why I just ask, why haven't we done this yet? And you hear all these coaches talking about how it's just too complicated. And what they're saying is they don't trust their quarterback or their linebacker's ability to process the information coming into their ears. And I think they don't want to handle it.
Well, and I think a lot of people there's a sort of, I don't know if we want to call it a brand or vanity, certain vanity with college football being sort of old world. Hey, this is college football, man. We're not using helmet technology. We're not using all this stuff. We're signaling in the play from the sideline, and that's how we've always done it. Why are we going to change it? That sort of thought process and perspective is alive and well in college football. Now, of course, those most successful head coaches like Sabanator or Kirby or whoever, Prime certainly, they understand because they're modern day guys. They understand, hey, well, why don't we just do this and make it easier and this all goes away? But I'm telling you, there is a sector of college football that very much wants it to stay old world. And hey, this is college football. This is not the pros. Like, we're doing it a certain way. And I whatever ends up happening, I just think that the NCAA has to make sure the integrity of the game stays at the highest level, because once integrity of the game issues happen, now you're talking about everything from ethics to your gambling partners to all this stuff. And that's what I think you can't have.
Yeah, and interesting comments from Bob Stoops today on his radio show about this theory that somehow, everybody's doing it. This is nothing new. Jim Harbaugh's just doing what everybody else is doing. Not according to Bob Stoops, who said if it's true, absolutely, it's a big deal. That's ridiculous, Stoops said. Everyone's saying, it happens all the time. No, it doesn't. I've never heard of that in all of my years of football. And every team I've ever been on, sure, do we look across the field? And if you can see it, that's your job to do. You know what I'm saying? If I'm able to just, in my plain eye, look over there and know what they're doing, I should be doing it.
Yeah. And
that's
again,
exactly
no one's
right.
Disputing that. No one's saying, sign stealing is illegal. What we're saying is you can't fund dude's travel and his lodging and his desires to eat steak dinners every night and have him on the road filming other sidelines and then coming back and using a whole staff of people to break down that film and build a game plan.
I'm telling you now that there are financial records to this, and it will be the smoking gun.
Yeah.
Because no money goes out without Jim Harbaugh knowing about it. Now, interestingly, over the weekend, Jim Harbaugh, I think, tried to play this off as just, we're really good, and so people are coming after us. I got to tell you, I completely disagree with what he said here.
Jim, do you feel like your program has a target on its back, both because of the success on the field and also some things off the field?
Yeah, I think success, does that. There's people that don't like to see people be successful, and there's a target. Yeah, everybody's pointed that out from the beginning of the season. But our guys are, they're just very focused, and just go about their business, wake up, take care of business today, and then and we still got get back get the guys back to Ann Arbor, and then wake up tomorrow and take care of business again.
I mean, do you really think this is just because Michigan's good?
No, because you're not good enough. That's the problem. That's what nobody seems to want to say.
That's the biggest issue.
Do you run out undefeated records until the playoff? Yeah. But we're not. Jim Harbaugh didn't go to Michigan to have to win the Big Ten. That's not what we're playing for. You're playing for natties, and he hasn't done that at all.
Yeah, I find it remarkable that it's just so over the top, unfathomable that anybody could think that Jim Harbaugh is, actually cheating. And in my opinion, I don't see how he's not. I mean, all the evidence lines up. This kid did not do this on his own. Is this Stallions kid somebody that wanted to be part of the Michigan football ecosystem? Absolutely. He wrote a manifesto about it. He wrote, or what they're calling a manifesto. He wrote basically a novel espousing about his love of Michigan football, and here's how he was going to make them a national power. I think it is beyond naive if you believe that Jim Harbaugh had no knowledge of what Stallions was doing. He absolutely had to. And I've heard all of the rumors and all of the Harbaugh supporters saying, well, Jim Harbaugh never had any idea and you can't blame him for what his staff is doing. That's completely wrong. You absolutely blame the head coach because the head coach gets all the credit for everything. So when you get caught cheating, the head coach gets credit for that. When there are big wins and you win national championships, the head coach gets credit for that. Nothing, and I mean nothing, goes on inside of a major football program at any college in this country that the head coach doesn't know about.
Yeah.
It is completely naive to believe that this kid bought tickets to 30 games in 12 Big Ten stadiums and had tickets either on both sides of the field or on one side of the field filming the sideline. And there is video evidence from 12 Big Ten stadiums showing that. You come on now. The video from the Ohio State game last year where C.J. Stroud looks at the sideline and the play is signaled in the Michigan sideline, all the players and staffers immediately react and say, this is a pass. And they re-signal the defense. Everybody knew what was going on. Jim Harbaugh knew it. His assistants knew it. The players knew it.
The other team.
I mean, it's completely naive to believe that Jim Harbaugh somehow is innocent in this whole thing.
Yeah, and I totally agree with your point. It's us when we win, and it's me when we lose. That's your life as a head coach. That's your life as a starting quarterback, right? I mean, that's the responsibility you have in a leadership role. And I think that people want to be like, oh, well, dude, the kids are just victims here. This is Jim's plot. Well, that might be true that, hey, the kids aren't running the team, but the kids damn well knew what was going on. And if you think that a kid wouldn't try to get an advantage to up his draft stock or to do whatever he could to get the bag, you're crazy. And you know what? I don't blame the kid. I don't blame the kid at all. If I'm the middle linebacker or if I'm the cornerback or hell, even an edge rusher at Michigan, I'm not complaining because what is it if you're a player? It's no risk as a player and you were just following along. You were just following orders. And that's why I say there's no way Jim didn't know about this. There's no way that Jim is going to sit here and plead ignorance. The only question is, how long is the NCAA going to take to gut Michigan this season? How long until we get, hey, yeah, you're not playoff eligible. You're not like the whole gauntlet. Because ultimately, and I think it's the best point of this whole thing, the NCAA and the Big Ten cannot allow the integrity on the field to be questioned. And you're talking about a team that's got college football playoff aspirations, and pretty much everyone agrees this was going on.
And the other thing I would note before we get to your comments, the other thing I would note on this, every day we've got new details.
Yeah.
So the ball's rolling. People want this out. People want the information to come out.
Yeah.
People want to damage Michigan. People want to damage Jim Harbaugh because the flagrant FU that this is to his opponents, and the fact that Jim Harbaugh is already not liked by most of his opponents and by most of his coaching fraternity friends, if we call them that, constituents, peers, he's not well liked. And so when you're kicking people's ass, and our sources told us that one of the things that people hate the most about this is that he was doing it knowingly every play to lesser opponents.
Yeah.
That he did not need to steal their signals and beat them on every single play. And the other thing that I think people forget, this wasn't just offense. It was defense and offense. They knew what the other defense was going to do.
Yeah.
They knew the defensive signals.
It's a defense.
They knew the offensive signals.
And that's been my other thing here. Dude, if you had their signals both ways, first of all, great job. I mean, it's not, I think everyone's discounting how easy it is to decipher signals, even if you're at the game watching it. It's not easy.
It is labor intensive.
Yeah. So, I mean, this guy's putting in tons of hours a week trying to figure this out, and he was really good at it. But what I just don't understand is that exactly. Why are you going to run it up on teams when you know that you've got a dirty secret? Why are you going to do that? And the only logical reason is because Jim Harbaugh said, hey, this is awesome. We're not going to get caught doing this. And even if they were to catch on to it, there's no way they're going to have enough evidence. That's the only way you can explain it away, man.
Yeah.
And I just don't, anybody who knows anything about cheating understands that the result you're putting out on the field, if it's that egregious and you're just kicking the hell out of every team, even the ones that are bad, like, you're going to draw attention to yourself. And that's what I think got them caught. You're just beating people up.
I'm curious how long until we get the financials on it. How long until we find out that Michigan, in fact, reimbursed all of his road expenses?
Yeah, and I'm curious how far up the food chain it goes, because I'm not ruling out that, someone, I'm not going to sit here and say the athletic director knew about this, but you really telling me that nobody that runs Michigan knew about this? You're going to tell me that people who hang out around the program as Michigan, leaders, if you will, don't know anything about this? So The question is, how far up the food chain does the proof and the evidence link people to this?
That's going to be very interesting. And Donut says, Jim the victim, how rich?
Right?
Yeah, seriously. Katie Rader, what's up, Katie? Damn, that's some Coke bottle glasses. He ain't scouting. Well,
nope.
Jim does wear glasses. Lance Johnson, are the tax records on the expense reimbursements, is this possibly criminal? We'll find out. I don't think it would be criminal. I mean, it's an NCAA violation. But, I mean, if you wanted to go that far, well,
I don't know what crime you've broken. I mean,
it would be a violation of the tax code if you were paid under the table for it, or did you directly expense this and reimburse it? Did he put in an expense report? Was there a reimbursement deposited into his account? Like, you just got to know. Mike Smith, Bubbles glasses. My cousin Vinny was in the press pool and asked how many levels of thickness Jim's glasses have been through. Let's be nice. Stallions made like $50K a year. He ain't affording those tickets.
55 a year was his officially listed salary.
Yeah. So let's see. Gabriel, so we have another cheating Astros situation. I think this is far worse than
Agreed.
The Astros.
Yeah.
I think this is...
Everything the Astros did was in-game, meaning, okay, you use cameras in the stadium to steal signs, and you relayed those signs. Yeah.
You cracked a code in-game.
And then you banged on garbage cans and dugout roofs to signal that without being as low-key as possible.
You had a and if you guys don't remember, the Astros had a whole setup where they had a camera in center field, a TV in the tunnel with a garbage can. And what they did is they had that camera fixed on the catcher, and they stole the signs. They essentially shot a lens into that guy's crutch and deciphered what the signs were. And then once they figured out what the signs were, they started banging on garbage cans, and allegedly they used vibrating indicators. Like Jose Altuve allegedly had an indicator on his chest so that when a fastball was coming, it would buzz his chest. And if it was a breaking ball, there would be no buzz. And that's in game. They
And
were
it's still
in the,
terrible.
bad, but they're there.
Yeah.
What this cat did was he bought tickets in other stadiums and sent other people to videotape sidelines. And then he just grinded out the video, which he talked about in text messages. He just grinded out the video.
And why did he do that? And this is the important part. It speaks to his character. All he's interested is in 15 years being the head coach of Michigan, right? Like that's what this kid didn't give a damn about, NCAA violations or any of that. He didn't care. You're talking about someone who was in the Navy, someone who.
But I will give this guy credit, though. This manifesto he wrote about, where he broke down the ACT, the SAT test score versus grade point average, and he said he'd much rather have a kid with a low test score and a high GPA because it showed that the kid with the low test score and the high GPA was outworking his talent. Because he can't take basically he's saying you're not smart enough to get a good score on the SAT or the ACT, but you have a 4.0 grade point average. That means you're busting your ass in the classroom to get your good grades. You are outworking your level of talent. I want that guy on my football team.
Yeah.
He doesn't want oh man, he got a 27, but he's only got a 2.95 GPA. Nah, he's a lazy ass. We don't want him on the team.
Mm-hmm.
That's his working theory. And I got to tell you, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And so when we look at this kid, the one thing you should not get twisted here, this kid is really smart.
Yeah.
He's a really smart guy. To break down signals is not easy. To grind your face off because you have a plan that is basically a 5-year plan to raise your profile significantly year in and year out at Michigan so that at one point you can be the next head coach of the Michigan Wolverines.
To which I say, hey, Jim, we got a really savvy kid over here who's really smart and has a whole game plan. Should we bring him into the program?
Hey, Jim, listen, this kid, he came to me with the signs for Ohio State, and it turns out they're exactly right.
Program.
What do you want to do? Like, hey, this kid really wants to be around us. And it turns out that this kid's initial entry into the Michigan program is none other than Arizona football coach Jed Fish. Like, this kid knew how to manipulate people to get into the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
That's half the battle in life. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. In a lot of places, relationships move the needle. Like, this kid is not dumb.
Yeah.
This kid is not just some jag off the street. He's not just a guy. This is a kid that went to I believe he went to the Naval Academy and put in the work. And he said that he didn't go to Michigan, which is where he has family. This guy's a Michigan dude. Like, he wanted to go through the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is not stupid. Does that mean what he did is right? No, it does not. No, it does not. But let's not write this kid off as just some idiot who happened to have a really nice pair of binoculars, because that's not what happened here. Hero 75 for $10. Hero, what's up? Good to see you, bud. If the NCAA comes down, Michigan bye week would be the time. So now a new coach, whoever that could possibly be, considering everyone who had to know, has time to get in place. I think one of the more interesting parts of this is, can they fire Jim Harbaugh after the season's over? Well, I'm sure you could.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to start a process. If we learned anything from Mel Tucker at Michigan State, which, by the way, he lost today, he was deemed responsible.
Mm-hmm.
But if we learned anything, you got to put a process in place. And if you look at Michigan, who, again, is 8-0 this season, they're in their bye week. They don't play Purdue until the 4th of November. So, yeah, maybe now is the time where, I mean, what's going on behind closed doors at Michigan right now?
I think there's a lot going on. And
the level of panic must just be.
And again, I'm just telling you, Jim's not the guy that panics. The panic is happening in, the AD's office. The panic's happening at that upper level that's got to figure out how to pick up the pieces here. Jim damn well knows what's going to come down. Jim is well aware of, we're probably going to get caught for this. And, sorry, guys, is what it is. Got caught. I mean, that's the kind of guy that I take Jim Harbaugh to be, that he knew this was going on. He did not think they were going to get caught. He's going to play the victim card in the media as long as possible. And then if he gets fired, it is what it is.
Brand new story out of the Washington Post. This literally just hit 10 minutes ago. Sign stealing investigation threatening to disrupt Michigan's football season began after an outside investigative firm approached the NCAA with documents and videos the firm said it had obtained from computer drives maintained and accessed by multiple Michigan coaches, according to people familiar with the matter. Oh, boy. That's ugly. Evidence that suggests the scandal's impact could broaden beyond the suspension of one low-level assistant. People who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak about the ongoing investigation. They did not disclose who hired the outside firm that approached the NCAA. The NCAA, Big Ten, and Michigan declined to comment. Oh, wow. The outside firm's investigation began this season and involved interviews with people knowledgeable about Michigan football's scouting operation, as well as reviewing documents and videos related to sign-stealing efforts. Last Tuesday, these people said the firm presented its evidence to top NCAA officials. The next day, the Big Ten later confirmed the NCAA informed both the conference in Michigan and it opened an investigation. Among the evidence the firm presented was a detailed schedule of Michigan's planned sign-stealing travel for the rest of this season. Jesus. Listing opponent schedules which games Michigan scouts would attend and how much money was budgeted for travel and tickets to scout each team.
See, this is what I'm talking about. So what did they just say? Hey, we had a budget. Right? Hey, we had a budget for the travel. So what does that mean? That means this is above Jim, in my opinion. If you got to get financial approval.
No, I don't think so. Jim has a budget. And this is just in my experience. In my experience, this is game, set, and match. Let's just stop pulling punches. Remember what I said 20 minutes ago. If the financials on this come out, you're done. And you're done. Because if you look at this paragraph right here, oh boy, this is a doozy. Among the pieces of evidence the firm presented, detailed schedules of Michigan's planned sign-stealing travel for the rest of the season. So wait, did you just say that on paper there's a plan for travel? Okay. Listing opponents. So you planned, okay, each schedule opponents travel. Which games Michigan scouts would attend. So now you planned a travel schedule for scouts of your program. And how much money was budgeted for the travel and tickets to scout each team. Jim Harbaugh sits on top of a football organization and he has a budget. And so in my opinion, just in my experience, and I've had this conversation with an unnamed many, I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head. No money goes out without the football coach and the chief of staff knowing about it. Each football coach, so the football coach sits at the top of the pyramid. He's got a chief of staff. They've got everything. They're their own unit. And the athletic director oversees the football coach who oversees the football department. So I would think the athletic director is involved in this. Has to be.
Has to be.
The opponents targeted the most on this schedule were not surprising. Ohio State. Scouts plan to attend as many as 8 games, costing more than $3,000 in travel and tickets. Georgia, with 4 or 5 games scheduled for in-person scouting and video. $3,000 in travel and tickets. Michigan's sign-stealing operation expected to spend more than $15,000 this season, sending scouts to more than 40 games played by 10 opponents. Stallions listed as an administrative specialist made $55,000 last year. Oh my God. It's over. That's it, you guys. It's over. Jim Harbaugh will be suspended without pay pending the outcome of this investigation. There's no way not to now. When you have this level, of auditing happening, and the really interesting part of this Washington Post piece is it's unclear who ordered the audit. It's unclear. Information obtained from computer drives maintained and accessed by Michigan coaches.
So that probably means, and again, speculating, right? It's my opinion. That probably means someone got a little nervous about this before all this came out. Someone in the program was like, okay, we're going a little far here.
Somebody at Michigan.
Yes. Got nervous.
Yes. Had to have hired this firm.
Because what it says there is those computer drives were accessed by multiple coaches and staffers. So these were private computer drives at Michigan, not like public, everyone can access them. Private computer drives at Michigan that multiple coaches had access to, which sounds to me like, hey, these are drives that have a bunch of video on them, right? That just has a bunch of tape on it. And probably on these drives, one of those files were the Connor Stallion files. Hey, this is what it looks like based on the signal. Okay, great. So to me, I'm just telling you, I'm not trying to be dramatic about this. This says Jim Harbaugh knew, the AD probably knew based on that financial information we just got. And essentially, they've been caught red-handed. You got caught with your cookie in the jar, man. And as far as how this came out, because it's unclear who ordered the audit, I guarantee you this. This was a Michigan football inner circle thing, right? Jim, his closest coaches, obviously Stallions and his people that worked with him on this, right? There was a circle of people who knew about this. And then what generally happens? When you have a secret, at some point, that secret gets out.
Here's what blows my mind. He was telling his friends and family about it.
Yeah.
I showed this earlier, you guys. Look at the date on this from a Tennessee volunteer message board, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
December 1st. One of my little brother's friends is a scout for Michigan. And he goes on to talk about how they paid for him to travel to see UT Tennessee take on Vandy.
So this is, as far as Stallions is concerned, yeah, he was going to tell his family and he was going to, share this information and do what he needed to do. But at the same time, that's how this got out. Because again, when you talk about not knowing, hey, who ordered the audit and where did this and how did this all start? Well, it all started because you had this huge secret inside a group of probably, I don't know, let's be conservative and say 20, 30 people on that staff at least knew about this. And then Connor's out here telling his family and everything. So at some point, someone said, okay, hey, that's cool. You guys are getting an advantage. We're not going to say anything. We're your family. We don't care. But at some point, someone knew that this was a big deal and it was illegal and you couldn't be doing this. And so they felt so compelled to go out and get a firm to audit the program. And so this investigative firm is here saying, hey, there were budgets, not only for Connor, but for the staff and for all the scouts that they were sending out. It was line itemed. You knew it was $3,000 to go here and $5,000 to go there. And that's the end of it. Once it's clear that Jim and probably the AD knew about this whole situation, as my guy over here said, it's game, set, and match. It's over. And so my question is, how long until we get the NCAA coming down and saying, hey, that's the end. Michigan is no longer eligible for the playoff this year. They are not eligible for probably past that, honestly, until something's done about Jim and his staff, because this is not just a Jim Harbaugh problem. So firing Jim is no longer going to get the job done. Now it's going to have to be, we're firing Jim, we're firing probably 80% of that staff at least.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I think you are going to, when you fire the head coach, you're replacing his staff anyway.
Well,
right? I mean,
I
you're
don't
not
know,
bringing
are you?
in, you're not bringing in a new head coach and saying, hey, you're going to keep, hey, Connor Stallions is going to be on your staff, dude. Doesn't work that way. You're going to clean house anyway. My bigger question is, let's stop screwing around and let's have a real conversation about the integrity of college football. Because if that's the only job the NCAA has. They're the only place, and I know I keep saying this, and I know it keeps frustrating people, but I'll keep saying it. The only place the NCAA has teeth is in discipline. They're the only ones that can handle this. And if we're really going to have a conversation about the integrity of college football, maybe it's time to have that in conversation right now about Michigan. Because if you allow Michigan to compete for a college football playoff spot, don't ever come to me and talk to me about wanting to keep the game ethical and intact, and because that's a bunch of bullshit at that point. You can't tell me, knowing what you know, knowing that you have, according to this Washington Post story, detailed travel logs, detailed budgets that go with those travel logs, you can't tell me that there's questions anymore. If these reports are correct, and we have no reason not to believe that they are, but if these reports are correct, it's not a question of did Jim Harbaugh have involvement in a sign stealing scandal. It's what are you going to do about the sign stealing scandal at Michigan? It's no longer a question of did Jim Harbaugh know. Let's stop making up ways to spin it so that Jimmy doesn't get. Jim Harbaugh knew about this scandal, in my opinion, and Jim Harbaugh should never coach another game at Michigan. He should have after this scandal is adjudicated, I would hope he has at least a 5-year show cause notice. And I would hope that no NFL team touches him. Because now it's not a question of, is Jim Harbaugh ethical? The answer is absolutely not. Jim Harbaugh is not ethical. And again, I'm going to stand on what Bob Stoops said. This is not normal. This does not go on all over the country. Are there sign stealing operations in every stadium every Saturday afternoon? You're damn right there are. But they're not from other teams who create travel budgets and itineraries with the specific purpose of stealing signs. While you play a game in Ann Arbor, you have scouts in Tuscaloosa. That's not normal. This is a Jim Harbaugh operation, in my opinion, based on the evidence that we've seen. And if you're not willing to do anything about it, if you're not going to fire Jim Harbaugh, if you're not going to remove him right now, don't tell me that you care about the integrity of athletes or making boys into men at Michigan. Go Big Blue. Come on. Who are you kidding? You are as complicit as you are willing to let Jim Harbaugh continue as the head coach at Michigan.
Facts.
If you as the NCAA, if you as the Big Ten, if you as the president and the athletic director, and dare I say just the president at Michigan, you should fire the athletic director, because if the athletic director didn't know, he should have. You should fire Jim Harbaugh, and you should clean house after the season, because you're going to let those kids compete in football games for the rest of the year, but they're not going to a bowl game, and you should voluntarily withdraw yourself from postseason play this year. I mean, it's over. There's nothing else to talk about. I don't know how much more, like what other evidence would you need?
Oh, it's not. I think you've got them, but I think that's hardly the question. I think the question is, how far does the rabbit hole go? I mean, just how deep into your program does this go? Because again, just while we've been talking about it, thinking about it, the NCAA has all this evidence already. I mean, I would guess, just have to assume they do. So if you're looking at this, right, as it comes out and as you get it, when do you stop and say, okay, this is everything, right? Like, when do we stop and say, okay, hey, yep, we know Jim knows about it. We know it's program-wide. We know that the AD knew about it. We know that money was involved in this. We know that they did this because the evidence says they did it. We have them on video. We've got them at video in Big Ten stadiums. Then we've got them at video in game, executing on the scouting they went ahead and planned and executed. So then the only question is, okay, well, how long has this been going on? When did it start? Obviously, when is it going to end? And who knew about it? Because that's how you determine discipline. That's how you say, okay, Michigan's not eligible for the college football playoff for how long? Right? Is it just this year? Is this like a 3-year thing? What's the discipline going to be? And that's the only question in my opinion, that remains is, how deep does this go in the program, and how long is that discipline going to be? Because I don't. There's just no getting away from it anymore. There's no, oh, Jim didn't know, or this is some low level staffer.
Not at all.
We're way past that now, and I'm tired of hearing people saying that, because it's just it's the end of that.
Also from the Washington Post, an outside firm also presented NCAA officials with photographs of people investigators believe to be Michigan scouts in action, including current students interning with the football team. Ugh. The photos showed these people seated at games of Michigan opponents this season, aiming their cell phones at the sidelines. Days later, the outside firm told the NCAA cell phone videos depicting the coaching staffs from these games were uploaded to a computer drive maintained and accessed by Connor Stallions, as well as several other Michigan assistants and coaches.
See what I mean? So, hey, we're going to send the interns and as many people as we need to cover our bases out to these different games every week.
You sent interns.
Yeah, which is a bad look in and of itself. You don't put interns in terrible positions like this. But regardless of that,
it's not even that. You trusted, and I mean no disrespect to anybody that's an intern. Interns do not qualify as employees who you can put responsibility on. Interns are there to learn and educate and get on-the-job training. So let me get this right. You trusted inexperienced football interns with potential criminal behavior, and you didn't think you were going to get caught?
Nope.
You didn't think you were going to get caught. When you now have this outside firm that audited Michigan, and I'm with you, Jake, nobody has confirmed who hired the outside firm, but if they're getting access to Michigan computers and networks, it's Michigan.
Yeah.
That you sent students interning with the football team on the road to videotape sidelines. How are you not expelling these kids from school?
Wow.
You did, but you have no choice. They committed real, NCAA violations. And here's the problem. They knew what they were doing was wrong. You know how I know that? Because you can't send them out on the road without telling them, hey, if anybody asks, don't tell them you're from Michigan. Don't tell them you're an intern on the football team. Because what would happen if somebody said, hey, what are you guys doing? We're interns with the Michigan football team. We're just filming the sideline. That's an NCAA violation. They knew what they were doing was wrong. You're telling me you didn't instruct them to videotape those sidelines? When you instructed them, you didn't tell them that was an NCAA investigation? You got to expel them from school. Like, this is not ideal. This is not small, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is a major, major operation. And again, how is the state of Michigan, the great state of Michigan? How have you found yourself in this kind of debauchery again? Mel Tucker, the Larry Nassar scandal, how, man? Like, this is just remarkable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have not taken Jim Harbaugh off the field. You've known about this for a week or
At
more.
least.
Or more. You knew this. And you haven't taken Jim Harbaugh off the field. I'm amazed by it. And the other part of this, Jim Harbaugh's statement saying, and here it is right here. Jim Harbaugh's statement, I don't have any knowledge or information regarding the University of Michigan football program illegally stealing signs.
Congratulations, but that's bullshit.
Okay, let's presume every word of that statement's true. You're fired. You're fired. You're derelict in your duty. Oh, here's a term you never want to hear at the NCAA level. You have a lack of institutional control in your football department. How about that?
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's not my computer. What? If he is still your analyst, and not the NCAA.
For real.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait. I don't have any knowledge, nor have I directed any staff members or others to participate in an off-campus scouting. So let me get this
fucking ass.
Let me get this right. Let me get this right, khakis. So your interns in the football department traveled to and let's not get this twisted, friends. Right? For travel for the rest of the season, listing opponent schedules which Michigan scouts would attend. Right? And if you look, like according to two people familiar with the matter, like you have documents and videos that the firm said it had obtained from computer drives maintained and accessed by Michigan coaches. And you went to at least 8 Ohio State games. And we're just supposed to believe that, no, what? 15,000.
You ought to know you bought it.
Let me get this right. So you don't have Jimmy? Jim, what's this $15,000 for travel for?
And, pardon me,
these expenses to Connor Stout, who? Who the fuck is that guy? We're paying to do 15 G's? Jimmy, what is this $15,000? Oh, those
we may have to go short in a couple cases.
Those were for hoagies. The boy, I had to get the boys some sandwiches. They were hungry.
A lot.
Yeah. When we played Michigan State, who doesn't want a good dish of toasted ravioli with some marinara sauce?
Fat.
Olive Garden's not cheap these days.
Nope.
Come on, Jim. What do you mean? I do not condone or tolerate anyone doing anything illegal or against the NCAA rules.
Good.
Does that include Zoom calls of workouts during the COVID dark period, sir?
Not a good question.
Why did you take a 3-game rip voluntarily for that?
Donnie, please.
Yeah, it's over. It's over, you guys. It's over. OG Gary says Bacavos cost $15K a piece. Good point.
So hold on a second.
Good point.
Hold on, though. Hold on. OG, were you not the guy last week saying this was no big deal and that people just hate Jim and people hate Michigan?
Why are you choosing violence right now?
Because I'm not letting my boy off the hook on this. Did you not say that, dude?
No.
Bacavo.
I don't know what you mean. It's juicy.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Gary said, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, you're damn right it was. Yeah.
You ought to know you bought it.
Thank you for taking accountability, unlike your head coach, Jim.
Jeff Woodworth. Jim, real press conference. FUNCAA, what you gonna do about it?
So you have no frame of reference here, Donnie.
So, Jim, hey, Jim, were you guys stealing signs and shit? Me? Yes, we were. And what are you going to do about it? When you need the Dave Chappelle show, right? Where he's remember that episode of the Chappelle show where he knocks over the pitcher of water and runs out of the room? Yeah, me too. James, Oak State fan. If Harbaugh did not know, he did not supervise his people. Supervisors check on their people and make sure they do what is right. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Like, you have a lack of institutional control.
Well said.
And this is the Pat Fitzgerald. I didn't know they were doing penis car washes.
Me?
What? Well, you didn't know that your team was doing nude sexually related hazing? Yeah, you're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Don't fuck.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah, you're fired.
Bye-bye. Like, you had to know. You had to know.
Come on.
Lance Johnson, Jake is still mad about the Phillies, aren't we all? Thanks a lot.
Don't get me started on that, dude.
Mike Smith, OG is real, man, and will own up to it. He did.
Hey, I'm just saying. And this is where I'd love, honestly, it's not even with OG. I'd love a hardcore Michigan fan to come in here and try and defend Jim.
No chance.
Because all of a sudden, Michigan fans that have been in our comments for the last week talking a bunch of junk seemingly aren't interested in being here during the live show. So I'm just curious what Michigan fan, has to say today.
It's wild to me that there are still a ton of Michigan fans who are like, he's innocent. He's innocent. The election was rigged. Like,
sure it was.
But isn't that
it's
what
the same
this is?
thing? Yes.
You're looking straight down the barrel of a gun, and you're like, well, there's no bullet in that. Yeah, there is.
Come on, dude.
Guys, come on. It is irrefutable evidence at this point.
Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough.
And it's wild to me. OG Gary says, listen, I have no working knowledge of me saying that. Allow me to pull a Jim here. Amen.
Yeah, guys, I have no knowledge of what I said 3 days ago, so I'm innocent.
Jim Stallions. Hey, the night before the games, be sure you stay at a Holiday Inn Express. Exactly. Alex Crows, Illinois fan here. Ooh.
The Fighting Illini.
No. Hey.
What?
Don't call him that anymore. Be respectful. Lovey Smith.
Oh.
I grew up a huge Jeff George fan. Man, I almost played baseball at Illinois, but chose not to. Offended by how much UM scouted the Vols and not us, who they played and almost lost to at home the week before Ohio State. Do tell. Boston Mapes. I'm with Gary. I believe the hammer will drop once the NCAA learns what a hammer is.
Seriously.
And we're going to have to make a run to home depot.
Yeah.
Bryce Martin, $75 million TV deal going towards this off-field drama, almost as good as The Mandalorian. Seriously. Fat Jesus simply says Diamondbacks. So we're going to get to your Diamondbacks. The downfall of Jim is going to be on 30 for 30. This is
illegal.
Oh, this is a 30 for 30 all day.
All day. Jimbo's going to get paid to be on there, bro.
No doubt about it. Bill G, it's a we stealing signs and you're not operation. We don't care.
Yeah.
Jim
It's a
Harbaugh.
defense.
Salty drunk. Talk about flogging a dead horse. I know. Just brand new details, but it's fine. What do you mean beating a dead horse?
What does
man?
that mean, dude?
We got this like 20 minutes ago. Boyd Lake, Jim would probably be really successful these days as a politician. He'd fit right in. Pick your party. Seriously. It's wild that he still believes plausible deniability is like a thing.
What really do we have to lose?
Seriously. Aaron Wilson gifted one membership on the Monty Show.
Yeah.
Aaron Wilson is an intern in Boss Frog's department.
Yeah.
You never play parlays. Never. Parlays are bad business for us normal folk. 1939, I will defend Jim and think you're making a big deal out of nothing. But
Okay,
so what do you mean? How is it a big deal out of nothing?
Yeah. Explain your case.
I mean, just because, now people are reporting that, whoa, excuse me. Bob Stoops now saying this is absolutely an atrocity and a huge deal, that this does not go on. And what is that, you might ask? Among the pieces of evidence an outside firm presented was a detailed schedule of Michigan's planned sign-stealing travel for the rest of the season, listing opponents' schedules, which games Michigan scouts would attend, and how much money was budgeted for travel. So that's not a smoking gun. That's not like when you look at where they went and how much money they spent, you don't think that this is any kind of big deal. I mean, what?
That's the untrained eye.
What do we talk? What do we? Big deal. What do you mean that it was Ohio State, Michigan's top rival? They planned as many as 8 games, more than $3,000 in travel and tickets to see Ohio State and Georgia. 4 or 5 games. You're a savage. 4 or 5 games scheduled for in-person scouting and video recording. Cost more than $3,000 in travel and tickets. But no, this is much ado about nothing.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, other than the fact it's completely illegal.
I mean, it's fine. Like,
I don't break the rules.
In total, these people said Michigan's sign stealing operation was expected to spend more than $15,000 this season, sending scouts to more than 40 games played by 10 opponents. According to the university's public salary disclosure record, Stallions, who is on paid administrative leave, listed as an administrative specialist in the athletic department for $55,000. Now, last time I checked, if you make $55,000, do you really think you can afford 15 G's and travel for 40 different venues?
No.
No, you can't. And here's the other thing that you can't get away from. The firm approached the NCAA with documents and videos the firm said it had obtained from computers maintained and accessed by Michigan coaches. Evidence that suggests the scandal's impact could broaden beyond suspension of one low-level assistant. You guys, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is a very big deal. This is not nothing. Come on now. Ron Nolan, Vegas must have known, you think? Gabriel says, holy smokes, that got my attention. Giggity, that drop was well played, Jake.
That's me, baby.
Jeff Woodworth, Jim paid me $30 to record Ohio State on my VCR and send him the tapes. Hey, man. Hey, big shout out to all our Michigan supporters. Anybody got a Betamax? Do you even know what a Betamax
I'm a man.
is? Jake don't even know what a Betamax is.
I mean, I ain't got time for all that, man.
Mike Smith, computers involved. AI turned in Michigan to the authorities.
Apparently, there's a video going around Twitter this afternoon of a deep fake of Jim Harbaugh admitting they cheated.
Dude, we got to stop with this AI stuff.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
We got to stop with this AI stuff. There was a story on, I don't remember the investigative service who did it, that the number one grossing scam right now is AI voice calls from Africa and India, where it's the voice of one of your relatives telling you they need help, or, hey, they kidnapped me, or I got arrested. I'll tell you for what after you send the bail money. And people are actually sending the bail money because the voice is just like their mom or their wife or their friend. And the way that people are figuring this out is it's really sensational in their life. So like, yeah, I'm going to call you back. Like, it's crazy what AI is doing. Bryce Martin, got to rewind them VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. KC Boss, what's up, boss? The crazy part is with their schedule, they should have only had to do this for a few schools.
Yeah.
40 games, 15 Gs.
That's what I mean. Why are you so focused on Rutgers, dude?
How
Just
did
go
you
and beat them?
And the biggest thing for me, KC, is how did you think you were going to get away with these line items?
With all due respect.
Like, do football interns, do interns on any level go flying around the country?
No.
Hey, yeah, I've got to go to the world's greatest cocktail party between
for
the
real.
hedges, bitch.
I'm for real.
What are you guys doing this Saturday? Well, I can't tell you, but we're going to the Georgia-Florida game. And
Some shit happened.
oh, you should see the SD card and how much expense I paid on that thing.
Is that a SanDisk?
Hey, man, that's a cool, beautiful, brand new phone. Where'd you get that? Oh, from work.
Not a good question.
What do? I steal signs from Michigan. Right? Because this dude was telling his friends.
Like, what's the bluff? If you're one of these interns at the Ohio State game, and security rolls up to you because you look suspicious. Hey man, what are you doing here? Yeah, I don't know. Just coming to watch the game. I mean, is that really gonna fly? And I really want to know, were they wearing Michigan gear? That's what I want to know.
No way. No way. No way. But here's why. And it's Watergate all over again.
Facts.
I think of all the stupid crimes people have committed. Well, I'm going to send my cousin Larry. He's an auto mechanic, but he's really good with numbers.
What constitutes a promise?
Right? Like, and my friend Larry, he's got a handgun. I'm going to have him knock off Jimmy. Like, you sent football interns.
Football.
And there's video of them the entire game holding their phones pointed at sidelines.
That kid's a stud.
And then they uploaded the video to computer. Like, this is
new videos.
Boss Frog, serious question. Why isn't the Michigan TCU game more exposure in this scandal? The only school they didn't scout, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I am amazed. I am amazed.
More is going to come out, I'm telling you.
I am amazed. Yeah, I think. Why didn't they scout TCU? They didn't have time. That's why. That's why. You didn't have time, and you listen to Kirby Smart talking about it, and you listen to, like Kirby Smart today on dognation.com. James Crapia got Dan Lanning on the record too. Dan Lanning said he didn't have a lot of thoughts on Michigan's in-game scouting Oregon last season. Ultimately, I think that's all sort itself out. If anything was unusual in the 2021 Orange Bowl versus Michigan after it scouted the SEC championship game, I just remember the result of that game.
Savage.
Like, it is wild to me. Kirby Smart, in his Tuesday press conference about the win over Michigan, offered up similar thoughts to Lanning. I didn't notice anything or know anything. Nobody we talked to warned us or anything like that. I think everybody we play, they say, we steal your signals. Right? We tried to hide the signals, hold the calls, put up signs, do all that, but there's nothing I remember about that Michigan game that makes me think that. But I would remind you, Georgia was ranked number 1 in the country. Michigan was sitting at number 2. Oregon was ranked 8th, 6-1 on the season. Like like you're talking about, do you guys understand? Like, do you understand in the college football playoff what's on the line? Like, Jim Harbaugh has been an abject failure at Michigan.
Yeah. And again, I think it's important to point out, when did this all start?
2 years ago.
Yep.
When he started beating Ohio State. He had been a disappointment, and the talk of him going to the NFL started. And I would also remind you, this probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, or certainly not a fireable offense, if he hadn't been such an asshat in the previous investigation about recruiting during the COVID dark period.
Such a great point.
Where he refused to answer questions, and the NCAA Committee on Infractions said he was downright dishonest. I don't know what else you say.
Don't lie to me.
This would have never come out if you'd have owned your nonsense and not had them sniffing around the program.
And guys like Dan Lanning, I mean, what does he have to gain by talking about it? Like,
yeah, that's a roast job out of Dan Lanning.
Like, I look at this situation, and I wish I could say I was surprised, you guys. I wish I could say I was surprised, but you listen, and I don't mean to keep playing the same bite over and over again, but listen to what Jim Harbaugh said about this.
Jim, do you feel like your program has a target on its back, both because of the success on the field and also some things off the field?
Yeah, I think success, does that. There's people that don't like to see people be successful, and there's a target. Yeah, everybody's pointed that out from the beginning of the season. But our guys are, they're just very focused, and just go about their business, wake up, take care of business today, and then and we still got get the guys back to Ann Arbor, and then wake up tomorrow and take care of business again.
Like, he's just a jerk. Dan Lanning is a red ass.
Yes.
Jim Harbaugh is unlikable and a jerk. You cannot, unless you are a Michigan fan, you cannot root for this guy.
Yeah, at least with Dan Lanning, like I've gone through a renaissance with Dan. I was not a Dan Lanning fan when he was roasting Colorado. Not a fan. Thought it was low cash because Colorado has no business being on the same football field as Oregon. Like, I had a lot of criticism for Dan, but I got to admit, dude, you lost to Washington like that, and then you came out and, you said we weren't good enough. We didn't execute, and I appreciated that out of Dan, and I appreciate the fact that he takes the opportunity to roast Michigan when it's presented to him, because that's exactly what he did. hey, I don't think much of it because essentially we won the game. Like, okay, great. If you want to scout against us, awesome. We still beat you. And that's what I love about Dan Lanning. I wish they'd beat Washington because I think Washington's going to have a tough time getting into the playoff. I think Oregon would have had a better shot. But I appreciate what Dan's doing right now. But I'm just telling you, man, you can't be the way that Jim is with the media and think that it's going to work out well for you, meaning that the media is not going to do anything to you. But if you're going to sit here and be this, he's a jerk, but just sort of this so relaxed, like nothing affects you, no problem type thing. That's where I'm saying, hey, you're going to get in trouble because people know that you don't want to admit what the hell is going on right here. And that's going to get you in trouble.
I think, and again, if you're just tuning in, because I see a bunch of people just joined us, we are running down the details, brand new from the Washington Post about an outside firm that was auditing Michigan and got access to computers at Michigan and uncovered a treasure trove of information around this cheating scandal. And one of the major revelations of this cheating scandal that was unearthed by this firm is the opponents targeted most on the schedule were Ohio State, Michigan's top rival in the Big Ten, where they were going to scout as many as 8 games related to Ohio State, where they spent more than $3,000 on travel and tickets. Next was Georgia, a potential Michigan opponent in the college football playoff, 4 or 5 games scheduled for in-person scouting and video recording, also costing in the neighborhood of $3,000 in travel. And the other hard part about this is this sign stealing investigation now, it looks like was uncovered by an outside firm who approached the NCAA with documents and videos the firm said it obtained from computers and drives maintained and accessed by multiple Michigan coaches, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. This is a big deal. And right now, I think the question we're asking you here on the Monty Show is, can Jim Harbaugh survive this? Because I just don't see any way. And again, they're in a bye week now until November 4th. I think you have to take him off the field. You have to say you are suspended, and I'm good with it. If you want to suspend Jim Harbaugh with pay, I totally understand that. But I don't believe that this is one of those situations, Jake, where you can just say, hey, yeah, let's suspend him with pay, or actually let's just let this thing play out. Like, I don't think you can do that.
No, it's one of those situations where you have to be very cognizant of how you're making your institution look. I mean, if you're going to suspend him with pay, you're basically saying you don't think he's guilty and you think that he's just out here coaching the football team. But the reality of the situation is that all the evidence says he knew, all the evidence says he's guilty, and all the evidence says he's right in the middle of this thing. And I'm telling you, and this is what we talked about earlier in the week, for those of you who weren't there for those shows, dude, this is something where now the brass at Michigan has to seriously start considering the damage to the brand that is Michigan in the big picture, not just football, but just Michigan as an institution. I don't care what the sport is. Hey, is Michigan a school that's known for cheating? Simple question. We can't say that now. And I'm certainly not.
You're not willing to say that now.
Not yet. It depends how they handle this. Because if they handle it, if they suspend him without pay and he's gone and the discipline comes down and they handle it well. Is Arizona known for cheating through the Sean Miller case?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was recruiting and bags of money and under the table stuff and Adidas deals that should have never happened and the FBI. We all know that story. So with this one, I'm sitting here asking, okay, how does Michigan now escape this as a brand? Because I think you seriously have to look at that. And I'm a big proponent of the only way you escape it is by letting this guy go and rolling it over and putting winning to the side, because winning no longer matters.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's one of those things where now Michigan's known as the program that's willing to do things that we never thought they would do. I mean, you would never think that, hey, Michigan's going to be in the center of a massive scandal. Like, you would never think that. You would never think that this would be, with all due respect to our Texans and our folks in Waco, a Baylor type scandal, or like, what's the magnitude of this scandal? It's probably not on the Baylor level because we're not talking about assaults and murders, and we're not talking about that. But is this Rick Pitino at Louisville basketball? Yeah, I think it is. Is this any recruiting scandal that we've seen? Yes, it is.
Yes.
I just am. I think it's worse than the Astros. I think there's no question.
This is definitely worse than the Astros.
It's worse than the Astros.
Yeah, because you went out. You were proactively going out and scouting teams that were deeper in your schedule. This would be the equivalent of the Astros sending a whole scouting department that would videotape with their phones, the dugout, a week in advance of every game or something. I mean, that's what you're talking about here. And I really think, to be honest with you, this is something that you probably wouldn't see in a lot of other sports because of the volume of games in other sports. I mean, again, you got to understand. I mean, you're talking about hours of footage that this guy and his people, not, Connor and the staffer, had to break down.
But am I putting too much into the fact that this is Michigan football? That this is the Michigan Wolverines. This is Bo Schembechler. This is a program that I do not associate with anything like this.
No, I don't like Michigan, but the fact is Michigan is a prestigious brand. This is a brand that is a blue blood for sure. This is a brand that is iconic in college athletics, whether you hate them or love them, whatever your feeling is, who Michigan is. And I'm telling you, the brass at Michigan has a responsibility now to save face, to damage control, to say, how much exposure do we have here? And the answer is a lot. You've got a lot of exposure. Oh, it happened in the football program under Jim? Well, damn, you guys know that Michigan hockey puts a lot of dudes in the NHL. What are they doing? What, you know what I mean? Like, that's what happens here. That's the natural progression.
I guess you can go back to the Fab Five, right? I
precisely.
mean, like, in all the stuff, the Ed Martin stuff and the Chris Webber stuff and all of that went on. I just don't view Michigan in that light.
No.
And I think that's one of the things that's so damaging